Jordan Poole went from the NBA's next headlining rising star to being one of the most hated and criticized players in the NBA. But what exactly changed for Jordan Poole so fast? See, it turns out there is so much that happened between the lines that no one paid any attention to. Today, I'm going to go over the 3 stages that took Jordan Poole from stardom to the doldrums in the NBA, and how Poole was this close to changing a franchise, including the huge secret the NBA tried hiding from all of us. Beginning with Stage 1. Jordan Poole was getting ready to put the NBA world on serious notice. Before his downfall, and before all the criticism came raining on Jordan Poole, he was giving Warriors fans hope for an exciting future. See, when Jordan Poole played in his first ever playoff game, he immediately showed out and proved to his teammates, to the Warriors, and to the world he's got next. Jordan Poole scored 30 points on 69% from the floor and 71% from 3 in his playoff debut against the Denver Nuggets. A debut stat line that is on par with, if not better than the likes of Steph Curry, Kobe Bryant, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. Let that sink in for just a second. At 22 years old and as the 28th pick of the 2019 NBA draft, Poole's playoff debut was more impressive than the debuts of a few of the game's all-time greatest players. Poole shot 9 of 13 overall and 5 of 7 from the three-point line in just 30 minutes. And he joined elite company with Wilt Chamberlain and Mitch Richmond as the only players in franchise history with 30 points in a postseason debut. A performance so good that Poole's splash partner Klay Thompson couldn't help but gush praise for JP, saying, "Jordan Poole, wow, what a playoff debut. He's just incredible. What a star in the making." Yet, many people, for some reason, either weren't paying attention or just weren't talking about what they saw Jordan Poole do in his first ever playoff game. It was a playoff debut like that and several other huge outings for Poole during the Warriors' title run during the 2022 postseason that moved Poole's name to the top of the NBA world, including 4 games of 20 or more points off the bench, which made Poole only the second player since 1983 to have more such games at 22 years old or younger in a single postseason. That production, capped with an NBA championship, gave the Warriors front office the confidence they needed to hand this 22-year-old kid a brand new contract just before the start of the 22-23 season. He was becoming the big name in the Bay. The fans loved him and his character, especially his connection to the baddies on the court. Even his head coach, Steve Kerr, couldn't help but go all the way to say publicly that Poole is the future in Golden State. But that's when Stage 2 kicked in for Jordan Poole, and the big secret the NBA kept from us. Jordan Poole's early rise to stardom became his own worst nightmare, and here's why. Something like this happens in the NBA more than we think. In fact, it isn't just limited to the NBA because we see it all around the world of sports. And that is the issue of players getting far too complacent before they've even given themselves the fullest opportunity to reach their great potential. Jordan Poole often looked like one of the most skilled basketball players in the world in Golden State. Heck, he still can be. But where the issue started for Poole was that his breakout 2022 season on top of his big contract took him to a whole different place mentally. He felt like he was the man. He felt like he should be as valued as the other Golden State superstars. If we just take it by the numbers, it tells some of the story, but only some of it. In 2023, yes, Poole averaged 2 more points per game than the previous season and played in all 82 games, with half of those games being played as a starter. But his field goal percentage came down considerably. His free throw percentage, though still elite, was far off from what it was a year earlier, and his three-point percentage dropped significantly, while his turnovers surged to up over 3 a game. for a $140 million man. These were far from the numbers the Warriors were expecting. This was supposed to be the season the Warriors would start to make a slow transition from their dynastic core to the young players on the team, led by Jordan Poole. And then there's the elephant in the room: the time Draymond punched Poole before the start of the season. Sure, it became a huge distraction, and the Warriors weren't ever quite able to rebound from such a glaringly bad moment. But has it ever dawned on you why Draymond got as bullish with anger as he did? Could it maybe have been because Poole was talking some lighthearted smack about how he was the next guy on the team after Steph, and was flexing a little too much after signing that huge deal? Now, to be fair, there's part of me that feels like Poole deserved to act a little full of himself. And I say that simply because he was a guy who was a late first-round draft choice after he was profiled as a skilled but flawed college player. He took his talents to the NBA but was sent down to the G League shortly thereafter. And then he got the call back up, started lighting up the NBA with some sick performances, and won a championship. But perhaps he celebrated too soon and thought he had made it when he still had some ways to go. And so he felt like he was the man, wanted to become a full-time starter and flex his muscles on a team in the defending champs. And that's when things would get worse. Because when the 2023 postseason started, Poole was looking to carry the momentum he caught from last season's playoffs when he took the world by storm. But instead, his lack of improvement throughout the season and unwillingness to be patient in his development reared its ugly head. He had a couple of terrible no-shows in the first round against the Sacramento Kings when his weaknesses became more evident with the world now watching. Steve Kerr took exception to his decision-making. Poole's frustration began ramping up, and so did his attitude. Because after a game against the Lakers in the following round, in which he scored 0 points, the aftermath transitioned into a messy locker room situation with Jordan Poole at the center of it all. How do you think Jordan Poole felt as someone who got a huge payday and was expected to hit another dimension in his game, to now having his lowest moments and some of the biggest moments of the season with the world watching? These weren't random regular season games with nothing to lose. There was a ton of pressure to live up to expectations. These were the NBA playoffs, and the once flashy, exciting number 3 turned into his team's biggest detriment. In 13 crucial playoff games, for a player that was supposed to help take the load off the shoulders of Steph Curry, Jordan Poole logged under 15 points in 9 of the 13 games. He was nowhere to be found when it really mattered, which was signaling one thing and one thing only to the Warriors. What should we do with Jordan Poole? And can his situation on the team be resurrected? For an organization like the Warriors that is the NBA's best reflection of culture, teamwork, and chemistry, the Jordan Poole conundrum turned into something this franchise hadn't ever faced. This was the first time they dealt with a player who had an ego as volatile as Poole's. This organization has always been an embodiment of sacrifice, teamwork, and ball movement. And well, the harsh truth is, Poole just didn't fit that bill. Or at least, he wasn't willing to. But when you're still young enough with big potential, there's time before it's too late. While Jordan Poole left the Warriors in brutal fashion, he has another chance, even though it isn't looking too good so far, which is the third and final stage of the video. Jordan Poole has hugely disappointed early in his Wizards tenure, so far. As bad as it ended for Poole in Golden State, few people expected a new beginning for Poole as bad as this. See, Jordan Poole got what he wanted: his own team, the keys to the offense, and freedom to play his brand of basketball. But what if I told you that Jordan Poole is playing fewer minutes now as a starter than he did last year as a bench player for the Warriors? And what if I told you he's scoring less now as a starter than he did last year when he was coming off the bench? But what has been the real reason behind Poole's early season struggles? Numbers say otherwise, but Poole remains confident so far, recently saying, "It's a smooth transition. We're building everything from scratch, essentially, building up a new foundation." And in Poole's defense, I guess going from a really good team to a pretty bad one can be a challenging transition of its own, even though he isn't going to come out and say it publicly. It's a lot easier to get open looks and play freely when you have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson by your side, drawing the entire defense's attention. Now, being the primary ball handler in Washington, Poole is learning what it feels like to have defenses directly game planning to stop you. And that's the biggest reason I think Poole has struggled, as reflected by his poor shooting at just 40% from the floor and only 28% from three. Heck, even when he's open, he acts a fool. The thing is, Poole is firmly at the forefront of things in Washington. He said he wanted his own team, and so far, his play is reflecting that mindset. Because Poole so far has the second highest usage rate of his career, which shows you that he's trying hard out there, but he's been wildly inefficient, and it's become the biggest reason why Poole became one of the most scrutinized players in short order. Of course, we don't expect those numbers to remain low as the season grows older, because he's shown flashes of his former self. Even earlier this season, albeit in the preseason, but still, it looked like the Warriors would quickly come to love their decision to trade for Poole, with him looking as sharp as ever in his first touches in those Warriors threads. A smooth 40-piece in Madison Square Garden, in just 3 quarters. But with how things have gone now, the tide continues to turn the other way for Poole, as the most recent word around the NBA is that Poole might not even be on the Wizards much longer if his lackluster play continues. Can you imagine 2 teams giving up on Poole in the same year? Especially after how insane his initial rise in the NBA was. Jordan Poole was once breaking basketball, and though it still might be a bit premature to say that the end of Jordan Poole is near, you wouldn't be crazy to think his career may begin to take a completely different path in the very near future.